My title is Clinical Effectiveness and Service Improvement Manager. One of the things that I do is manage the audit programme for the CAG. I'm also involved in co-chairing the Clinical Governance Committee and supporting all general audit work throughout the CAG. Because of my clinical background, I also get involved in lots of practical clinical audits and looking at clinical standards, nice guidelines. So I also sort of work with the Central Clinical Effectiveness team to support their role. So we have quite close links with the Clinical Effectiveness team in the Trust. So I can get involved in anything because my clinical background is sometimes do sort of mental health competencies. I'm a member of the Nursing Council, so I'm quite involved in that. So so I think it's everything really that's related to clinical practice and service improvement that I become involved in. My grandma died when I was 10 years old, and we spent quite a lot of time in hospital at that time. And as a result of my grandma's death, we had to make a major change as a family, and we all moved together and to look after my grandfather, and sort of like we lived as a big extended family. And so I think that sort of influenced that whole life experience influenced me in a way. And I think my teacher at secondary school, sort of when I was weighing up my options about what to do at school, might have sort of planted a seed in my mind that nursing might be a good profession. So I actually signed up to go to college, to go to a nursery nursing course, and when I got to the college I actually decided that I really didn't think that was a really good idea, and I thought that the nursing course would be a much better option for me. So I just decided to sign on the pre-nursing course on a bit of a whim really. So I went to do general nursing to start with, and it was during my spell with the mental health teams, because we had there was a very, very dynamic community team working at the time. They were sort of like one of the best in the country. It made me decide that I really wanted to go into mental health because of the experience I had there. So I left general nursing very, very early on to go and retrain as a mental health nurse. I think nursing's been really good for me because it's given me the opportunity to travel. So I spent some time in New Zealand and Australia and worked as a nurse and got the opportunity to look around the country. I think I was probably always going to be a nurse, but I think as my life's developed, I've developed more sort of creativity. So I think it would be, I've been more interested in sort of history and curating, and maybe I would have been more interested in doing art history. So I think my ideas of what I'd like to do have really developed as I've got older. But I've always enjoyed nursing too much to actually break away from it completely. So maybe that's something I'll do when I retire. I think it was a combination of my general nurse experience. So I always really enjoyed that aspect of care, and that was I really enjoyed the general side of the work, looking after the physical health care and things like that. I did a period where I worked as a district nurse, so I've done lots of different things, and I really loved visiting the older population. And I had a really, really good experience. So I did really like that work. So I guess after spending time working in the community and other sort of various bits and pieces, I just sort of felt my natural home was back with older adults, because I had a certain empathy for that age group. And I guess with an older population, that there's going to be a lot of work and lots of variety of work in that particular area, so that sort of seemed to be quite attractive to me. I was just thinking about one patient in particular who just came to the ward one night, and it was it's about 9 o'clock, we're about to go off shift. She sort of came into the ward, and she was obviously a very, very distressed state. And so my job was to do the admission process with her, and she was crying, and we sort of settled her down, got her a cup of tea, and started to listen to her story. And she told me how she had recently found out that she had been adopted, and when she had tried to find out about her birth family, she realised that she had been adopted as she was Aboriginal from background. She'd been adopted without any paperwork, or she had no way of actually tracing her roots, and she was just in such a really, really bad state. And she just really struck me how, what a precarious life she'd been really living for the last sort of 35 years without really, really knowing her background, and it just had a really sort of big impact on me. Really, I just felt, just really felt and empathised with her. And it was just one of those sort of very, very brief moments that you have with somebody who it just really affects you and the way you think about life and your life. And I mean, for me at the time, it made me think about the country that I was actually living in, which was Australia, and how, how difficult it had been for certain populations within that town. So yeah, that very brief interaction had a really big impact on me and the way I thought about where I was living. And it was very strange, really, because when I went back to work the next day, she wasn't there, she'd moved on. I never saw her afterwards, and I never really knew what happened to her. But yeah, it was quite it was a very interesting interaction, and I really hope that I sort of was able to help her in those sort of very early parts of her mission, so she was able to sort of tell me really what was going on for her at that time. Well, I suppose if it was a biography and I was relating it to nursing, I think it would be very much, the title would be something along the lines of travelling with a qualification, or, travelling with a purpose, because I think it's nursing's really given me a fantastic opportunity to see the world and to really learn about nursing in other places. And actually, I think when I came back to England, I realised that England was actually a lot further ahead than a lot of places around the world, although everywhere there's sort of pockets of excellence. So, that was good to see that and experience the nursing in different countries. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about things that are really rousing and things that remind me of home and my family. And I just think a really good piece of sort of Cornish male voice choir, anything, doesn't matter really, or a good Methodist hymn is a really good sort of rousing thing that reminds me of home and, really sort of touches me. I wouldn't say Cornwall's my favourite place in the world, although it's one of the best places in England. I'm very lucky to have been brought up there and have such fantastic memories. But I think my favourite place where I've travelled is Lamu in Kenya, which is there are a group of islands around the area which are close to the Somali border. Unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to travel there now, but it's the most amazing place, the coral reefs and fantastic weather, and I just had a really fantastic time when I went. I absolutely love art, and that's what I do. That's my hobby. I just go to as many exhibitions as possible. I think probably one of my favourite artists is Rothko, and how he makes the art he makes. I don't really understand, and I'd really like to go and see his works in America that he's done. He was also, again, related to, he did work in Cornwall for a while and was connected to the Cornish artists, so there's a sort of connection there as well. So a lot of the St Ives group, I love those sort of Cornish pictures, so yeah, anything like that was really inspirational. I think that I've got a real curiosity about people and things, and I think that's what keeps me going, and that's what makes me really interested in the work that I do, and the curiosity, I think that's the thing that really motivates me, and also looking for fresh things, new things, and if there was nothing new, that would not be very good. So I'd really, it's just keeping current with things.